Jen Psaki, White House press secretary, boy. Oh man, she is gonna give me content on top of content for the next 4 years, and I'm going to love it because she is absolutely miserable at this job so far. And the reason why is because, see, people like her have put so much pressure on themselves to try to one up the Trump administration, try to one up Kayleigh McEnany, to say, you know what, we're not like them. We are so much better than them, and we're so ethical. We're gonna bring some respectability back to the office, okay? And they're trying so hard to do this that really, in the process of trying too hard, she's really failing at her job, okay? And I gotta give credit to the mainstream media who are actually asking the questions, because they are asking legitimately hard questions, okay? They're asking her questions that, again, requires answers, and they're not softball questions. And every time they ask her these hard questions, she's falling apart. She's folding up, okay? And this week, she has come out and basically admitted that conservative Twitter is getting to her head. But before we get into that specific comment, let's rewind back to Friday and see how Jen Psaki here has repeatedly just avoided answering questions, right? She's trying not to lie, but she's repeatedly avoiding answering questions. And in my opinion, avoiding answering questions is worse than lying, right? Because that is the most dangerous type of misinformation, in my opinion. Not giving any answer at all. At least if you lie, at least we know, well, if they're lying about this, then that means that the opposite is true. If you say nothing, then there's no starting ground to actually evaluate what the actual truth is. So let's take a look at her refusing to answer some pretty tough but fair questions about the Biden administration here.
Go ahead.
Sergeant, can you confirm the Politico story about the president warning his family members to avoid any conflict of interest with his presidency and their business ties?
Well, I'm not going to get into private conversations between the president and his family members. We all have lots of conversations with different family members, I'm sure. The president is committed to ensuring we have the most ethically vigorous administration in history, and that includes restrictions on how his image can be used, and that is something that he's conveyed publicly and privately as well. So let me just reiterate the policy for all of you, which is, I think, maybe your next question, or I'll just reiterate it proactively. It's the White House's policy that the president's name should not be used in connection with any commercial activities to suggest or in any way that could reasonably be understood to imply his endorsement or support. He's issued the farthest reaching executive order with respect to the ethical commitments required of his appointees ever, and is very proud of it. And that's something that he is committed to conveying to.
You see how she just don't even answer the question, right? You see how she just try to finesse by it, right? All it is just asking, hey, what are your thoughts on this political story? Is it true or false? Right? Is there some legitimacy to it? Okay? A liar would just flat out come out and just say no. A finesser, which is what the Biden administration is, does worse than lying. They just don't answer the question at all. Okay? So here's the next one here, where she's asked about what happened on Wall Street with GameStop, and basically, what is the White House's position on this? And again, look at her basically finesse and try to avoid answering the question once again.
What is the Biden administration doing to protect the average American investor if there is going to be potentially a major market correction coming?
Well, the SEC put out a statement, I believe it was today, or in the last 24 hours, I should say. We'd refer you to that. We're not going to have additional comment from here.
Nothing beyond just monitoring it. Has he had any conversations with economic officials about what's going on?
We don't. He's briefed by his economic team frequently, but I don't have anything more to read out for you. Go ahead.
Is the SEC, DOJ, or broader administration specifically looking at Robinhood and other platforms' decision to prevent retail investors from purchasing certain stocks like GameStop?
I don't have anything more on this aside from to point you to the SEC statement.
What is the Biden?
See? This is how ridiculous it is. And this is the most ridiculous one right here. This is the most ridiculous one right here. Just take a look at this one.
Groups be used at vaccination centers when they get stood up across the country. Does the White House support that request?
I did ask our team about this. You or someone else may have asked about this the other day, and I think I have something on it here. One moment.
Asked about it the other day.
Lots to say about COVID, no doubt
I'm
about
sure
it.
you have lots to say about it, don't you?
So,
Let's see it. Let's hear it, Jen.
Let's see. Let me talk to our team about it.
Circle back.
Be used at
You go circle back with him, ain't you? You go circle back, Jen. Circle back with him, man. Whew, man, she is clueless, bro. So that was Friday, I believe. Now today she comes out and she lets the world know that people like myself and other conservative voices on Twitter have been getting to her, right? Because we've been calling her out about the fact that she's been avoiding answering any questions. She's always talking about circling back. She never really circles back on anything. She doesn't really know anything. And we just want answers because of the way that they have treated Kayleigh McEnany, right? Kayleigh McEnany was basically treated as an enemy of the state. The media talked down on her. They gossiped about her. They made her seem like she was the worst White House press secretary ever. And then you got this new person who, again, according to them, the standard is so low. Well, at the very least, she ought to be able to answer some basic questions. Okay? And she can't even answer basic questions. So I don't really understand what's so great about her versus Kayleigh McEnany now. So Jen Psaki here lets conservative Twitter know that we are getting to her head. Check it out.
And last thing I just want to do before we get to your questions, I often note I'm going to circle back. I hate to disappoint conservative Twitter, but I am going to circle back on a number of things, as we often do directly. But Hurricane Maria funds, which was a question that was asked last week, the president has made clear, the status of them, I should say, that it is a priority for his administration to release this funding. We are working to do so, so that is in process. On the White House fence, which a couple of people asked about, I believe it was on Friday, our goal, the president and the vice president's goal, is for the Secret Service to adjust the perimeter as soon as it makes sense from an overall security standpoint. So we're working closely with them on that, and they are, of course, would be in the lead on that front. And the last piece I just wanted to give a quick update on was there was a question about the White House's support for FEMA's request of troops. We, of course, support a whole of government pandemic response that is catering to the unique issues and needs of our states. FEMA's working in strong partnership with states to get a handle on their needs and accordingly have requested the significant manpower in some cases for this unprecedented pandemic response effort. I expect we'll have more on this as the days continue this week on how they will be utilized.
All right, so there you guys have it. Jen Psaki coming out and letting the world know that us conservatives are getting to her head. Okay, we're living rent-free in Jen Psaki's head, guys. We're getting to her. Okay, and this is honestly what media should be like, right? This is the role of alternative media, to hold our politicians and our representatives accountable. Okay, and then this one right here. She's asked about President Trump being barred from Twitter and how that basically has affected them and their policy going forward. Now, just take a look at this one. This is a very ironic response for somebody who's openly admitted that conservatives are living in her head.
As you know, President Trump has been barred from a lot of social media sites. Just curious whether you think his absence has made your job any easier or the White House's job any easier as it kind of goes forward on these COVID negotiations.
In what way?
Well, he created a lot of noise, right? He would have certain gravitational pull with Republicans who may be more inclined to take a harder position. Wonder if that's been anything that you guys have thought about or kind of considered.
This may be hard to believe. We don't spend a lot of time talking about or thinking about President Trump here. Former President Trump, to be very clear. I think that's a question that's probably more appropriate for Republican members who are looking for ways to support a bipartisan package and whether that gives them space. But I can't say we miss him on Twitter.
Does President Biden support the continuing ban of President Trump on those sites?
I think that's a decision made by Twitter. We've certainly spoken to, and he's spoken to, the need for social media platforms to continue to take steps to reduce hate speech, but we don't have more for you on it than that.
So it's funny because for somebody that has told us that conservative Twitter is living in her head, she's saying they don't think about Trump. Right, but every time you look, they're always talking about how they want to bring integrity back and truth and honesty and all this hoopla back to the White House. Now, who obviously are you talking about? You're talking about President Trump. So obviously Trump is living in your head, right? Obviously conservatives are living in your head. And then you don't want to answer the question about censorship, right? You don't want to answer the question about that. But you do say, well, Biden is, for blocking hate speech. And again, guys, I'm against hate speech. I'm not for hate speech. But I'm pro freedom of speech. People should have the right to say the things that they want to say. Okay? As long as it's not a direct threat of violence. Right? But hate speech is very subjective, right? Based on who's hearing the speech. Right? That's why freedom of speech should come over everything. But, it's funny because she's saying that about Biden, which basically means that she's for, or that he's for, further censorship. Right? And I think that, again, her not really answering these questions is leaving a lot to be desired from the White House press secretary, especially coming from people who talk so much junk about the last administration and how they're going to be so much better. I'm just not seeing it, right? If Kayleigh McEnany is a liar, then Jen Psaki definitely is worse than that, as she avoids giving any answer at all and leaves people in the dark. So who knows, man? Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.